Imagine this. You wake up to the scorching Egyptian sun, dust in your mouth, sweat on your back, and at the end of your 12-hour shift, you're not paid in gold, not in silver, not even in food. You're paid in beer. Yes, beer. The very civilization that built one of the greatest wonders of the world, the Great Pyramids, ran on a beer-based economy. But how? How could something as simple as beer fuel an empire? Today we're uncovering one of the most fascinating financial systems in human history. The story of how the Egyptians used beer not just as a drink, but as a form of money. Ancient Egypt was a world of gods, pharaohs, and monumental architecture. But beneath those towering pyramids was a massive, organized workforce that needed to be fed, housed, and paid. For centuries, people believed that slaves built the pyramids, but modern archaeology has shattered that myth. The truth? These builders were skilled laborers. Farmers, craftsmen, and engineers, and their payment system was surprisingly sophisticated. And at the heart of it all was beer. Around 4,500 years ago, during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, tens of thousands of workers gathered on the Giza Plateau. But they weren't slaves in chains. They were citizens working in rotating shifts. Farmers came during the flood season when crops couldn't be planted. Builders, masons, and bakers joined them in teams. Archaeologists discovered a workers' village right next to the pyramids, complete with bakeries, breweries, and barracks. They lived in organized groups, almost like modern construction crews, complete with supervisors and scribes who recorded everything, including how much beer each person earned. In fact, ancient papyrus documents and tomb inscriptions show a detailed rationing system, proof that this was not random. This was payroll, 26th century BC style. A typical pyramid worker's day began at dawn. They hauled massive limestone blocks, carved granite, and laid bricks under blistering heat. But what's fascinating is how well they were taken care of. They weren't starving slaves, they were fed generously. Archaeologists have found evidence of meat, fish, vegetables, and bread. But the highlight of their diet was beer. Thick, rich, and nutritious. It wasn't the fizzy beer we drink today. Ancient Egyptian beer was more like a bready, porridge-like drink, filled with calories, vitamins, and even protein. For many workers, beer wasn't just a drink. It was life. So, how did this beer economy actually work? According to ancient records, workers at Giza were paid in daily rations, about 4 to 5 liters of beer per person per day. That's right. Beer was their salary. The system worked like this. Scribes, the accountants of the ancient world, kept meticulous records. Each worker, based on skill and rank, received a set amount of beer and food. Higher-ranking craftsmen or overseers received larger rations. Ordinary laborers got smaller portions. Beer served as both wage and currency. It had real economic value because everyone needed it, and it couldn't be easily hoarded or stolen like gold. It had to be consumed or shared. Think about that. Egypt ran on a consumable currency. And brewing beer wasn't small scale. Archaeologists have uncovered industrial-sized breweries capable of producing thousands of liters per day. In essence, beer was not just food. It was the backbone of Egypt's labor economy. To understand why beer became currency, we need to look at Egypt's economy as a whole. Egypt didn't use coins. Those came much later with the Greeks. Instead, their economy was based on barter and rations. The government collected resources, grain, livestock, beer, and redistributed them to workers and officials. In this way, the state controlled wealth, food, and labor through a centralized system. Beer was the ideal currency because it was perishable and constantly in demand, just like a stable circulating money supply. So when we say beer economy, we're not joking. This was state-managed finance. Egypt was, in many ways, one of the first planned economies in history. Pharaohs weren't just kings, they were economic architects. Feeding 20,000 to 30,000 workers was no small feat. Every single day, massive shipments of grain and dates arrived at Giza. Bakers produced thousands of loaves. Brewers worked around the clock. The logistics were mind-blowing. Something close to running a modern industrial city. Workers were grouped into teams with names like the Drunkards of Menkaure. Yes, that's real. Showing just how deeply beer was woven into their identity. These teams even competed for honor and pride. The more they built, the more they drank. And in that dusty chaos, a primitive but functioning economic system thrived, fueled by teamwork, planning, and beer. Beer wasn't just a wage, it was sacred. Egyptians believed beer was a gift from the gods. According to myth, the goddess Hathor nearly destroyed humanity, until Ra tricked her into drinking red-dyed beer. She got drunk, calmed down, and spared mankind. So, Beer quite literally saved humanity. Every festival, offering, and burial ritual involved beer. It symbolized life, fertility, and divine protection. So when workers drank their daily rations, they weren't just rehydrating, they were participating in something holy. What can we learn from this ancient beer economy? At its core, it teaches us something timeless. Money isn't about gold or paper. It's about trust, value, and exchange. To the Egyptians, beer was value. It fed their bodies, united their people, and built their empire. Today we might use digital money and bank apps, but the principle is the same. We trade what we trust. And maybe, in some poetic way, our modern economies, powered by caffeine, energy drinks, and office coffee, aren't that different from the workers who once built the pyramids, powered by beer. So next time you raise a glass, remember, beer didn't just quench thirst, it built the pyramids of Giza,